Big salute, big salute, big salute, big salute. R.I.P. Young Dolph, R.I.P. Young Dolph. Another brother lost to the madness, man. Oh, man, it's crazy, man. Another brother lost to the madness. But you know, as we say, life must go on. But big salute to all my support squad, my support goons. Big salute, big bro. Let's get to our reading, y'all. Let's get to our reading. The Messiah and the anti-Messiah. Ooh, the Messiah versus the anti-Messiah. Or that will be the title, Messiah versus anti-Messiah. But the title of the chapter is The Messiah and the Anti-Messiah. Okay, let's get to it. Whenever a Messiah comes to the earth, there was always an anti-Messiah who comes at the same time to oppose him. This has happened 7 times and will happen one last time when the greatest Messiah, Yahweh, the King of Messiahs, comes. As you already know, there is an anti-Messiah waiting for an opportunity to appear to the world. You already know his name, and you also know this fact. The Messiah is always black, and the Antichrist is always non-black. The lack of understanding of this phenomenon of the Antichrist is the cause of all the arguments about the racial identity of the Messiahs that have come in the past. This applies to all 7 because the coming of each one was accompanied by the coming of a white false Messiah. By white, I mean non-black. So when whites say Jesus was a white man or that Muhammad was a white man, they don't know it. But they are actually referring to the Antichrist and not the real Christ. It is inevitable that whenever they search historically for the Christ, they will always find the Antichrist because the Christ is never bestowed on them, but is bestowed on the black nation. The Messiah, every time he comes, is always God's gift to black people, never to the white races. So when black people search diligently also, they will always find the real Messiah. Hence, there is this phenomenon where black people hold on to the fact that every Messiah that ever came was a black man. And the blacks always oppose, insisting that he was white. This disagreement will never be resolved until the truth is known about the phenomenon of the simultaneous simultaneous appearance of the Christ and Antichrist. Many people, especially in Christian and Muslim worlds, believe that the appearance of the Antichrist is a one-time event that is yet to come. They don't know that it has already happened 7 times and will happen again one last time. When you understand this phenomenon, then you'll understand why true racial identities of Jesus, Muhammad, and Farad are obscure. Master Farad. Some insisting that they were black, some that they were white. The fact is that they were both because there were 2 versions of each, one being black and real, the other white and false. So black people who worship a white Jesus and a white Muhammad in the mainstreams of these 2 religions are actually worshiping the Antichrist and don't even know it. Let's talk first about the Antichrist that opposed Jesus, that came at the same time as him, as always happens. The Antichrist takes the same name as the Christ, or a name so similar that future generations who study external history will not be able to tell them apart. In this case, he was also called Yeshua ben Yosef. Yeshua, Yeshua ben Yosef. Jesus, son of Joseph. His father's real name was Manasseh. Manasseh, Manaseh. He was renamed Joseph at the time that his son was chosen to be the Antichrist. As well, the son was renamed Jesus exactly for the same reason, i.e., to maximize the deception. It shall be so also that when Yahweh comes, the false Messiah will call himself Yahweh, Allah, Christ, Mahdi, etc. Now, the lineages of all the children of Israel, right down to the present day African Americans, are kept in the book of life by the Elohim. In a similar way, the angels of deception, the extraterrestrials, also have their book of life in which they record the lineages of their chosen people. These chosen people are chosen by them on the basis of genetics, primarily because they represent the best types of genes among the non-blacks that these extraterrestrial races depend on for their survival. When it comes time for them to anoint their false messiah, they choose a person who is as close as possible to the lineage of the true messiah, but who happens to be non-black. They cannot anoint a black man as an antichrist for two reasons. First and foremost, no black person's first self would agree to such a role. And secondly, since their goal is to seed mainly the non-black races, they stand a much better chance using one of them. The lineage of the true Jesus, which is an all-black lineage from Abraham and before, all the way to Jesus, is given in Matthew. And Jesus was the 40th generation, counting from Isaac, the son of Abraham. The lineage of the false Messiah is given in Luke. The two lineages are as follows. Now I'm gonna make a post of the lineages, but y'all try to do a screenshot. Y'all try to do a screenshot. Hold on, let me. Okay, y'all see that? Y'all screenshot that. Boom, y'all screenshot that and do your own research. Yeah. You will notice that the lineage of the false Messiah diverges from that of the true Jesus at the 14th generation after King David. David had four sons by Bathsheba. Bathsheba. Queen of Ethiopia, maybe? I don't know. Let's find out. Bathsheba, including Nathan and Solomon. Nathan's son, Mattha, Matha, had a son named Menan by a non-black woman. The descendants of Menan gravitated towards their non-black ancestry and married non-blacks. By the time they reached the 8th generation from Menan, in the time of Mathat, son of Levi, the black germ was extremely absent from them. It was completely removed in the 7th generations preceding Mathat, when they married only non-blacks. So from Mathat, son of Levi, all the way to the renamed Joseph and his son Jesus, the false Messiah, a total of 32 generations, they were all non-black. Whereas from Abraham and before through Solomon, all the way to the true Jesus, they were all black. Thus, the true lineage of Jesus is the one that goes through Solomon and not through Solomon's brother Nathan. During the 3 years that Jesus preached and taught his disciples, the false Messiah also gathered a following and traveled in the same area, teaching his own doctrine. Remember that in those days there were no newspapers, radio, or television, so it was easy for him to live a parallel life, teaching his false doctrine of a spirit God. After Jesus died, the false Messiah continued teaching. His false doctrines were adopted by the Roman government, which used them to establish the Catholic Church. Ah, boy, man. He became more famous than the real Jesus, and when people talked about the Messiah in those days, they were talking about this white man. This white Jesus later married and they gave birth to children. He married a woman named Mary, but this was not Mary Magdalene, the black woman who was close to the true Jesus. This other Mary was a white woman, 31 years after the death of the real Jesus, Joseph ben Yusuf, the false from Ethiopia. From Ethiopia. The other Mary was a white woman 31 years after the death of the real Jesus, Joseph ben Yusuf. The false Jesus also died. His sons and their mother Mary moved to Europe while he was still alive and lived in Greece for a while. As the years went by, his lineage grew, and some of his descendants left Greece and moved to what is now France, which was called Gaul, Gaul, which was France was called Gaul then, Gaul. They became the rulers of that region and gave birth to the line of French kings called Merovingians, Merovingians. Man, this line of kings later ruled England under the name of Stuart, Stuart, or Stewart, Stewart. The present day rulers of England, the Windsors, Windsors, also claimed descendants from this same bloodline. These families all claim that they are the descendants of Jesus, the true Messiah, which is not the case. They are descended from Jesus, the son of Manasseh, 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 a white man and a false Messiah who was married to a different Mary, a gypsy white woman. The true Jesus during his time was known only by a few white people. He traveled mostly among the black population, but even in the Roman Catholic Church that formed later, there were some who knew the true Messiah. Hence, you have two representations of him in the ancient art of the church. One type showing the true Messiah as a black child and black Madonna, while the other shows him as a white child and white Madonna, even a white Christ on the cross. The image of the non-black Christ naturally became predominant right up to this day because it was promoted by non-blacks. The whole purpose of the white Antichrist is to maintain and reinforce the supremacy complex of the non-black races when they need for as long as they rule the world. What happened in Jesus' time happened again in the time of Muhammad. There were also two Muhammads, one a black man and the other a white man. There was a time in the latter part of Elijah's life when there was great turmoil in the nation of Islam caused by the dissension of Malcolm X. Elijah then told his dissenting ex-followers that the man they were following was a white man, the founder of Orthodox Islam. Yet previously he had taught that the Muhammad of the Quran was a black man. Many people are still puzzled as to why he would make such an obvious error. Now you understand that this was not at all a contradiction. The Muhammad that he was referring to, that is responsible for white Islam, was indeed a white man. He was the Antichrist of his time. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad could not talk as yet about the phenomenon of the Antichrist. It would have caused too much confusion. Also, at the beginning of the movement, there was another Antichrist present who was opposing Master Farad. Honorable Elijah could not talk about any of these things. The story of the white Muhammad is told very succinctly, Succinctly, by Malachi Z. York. You can read the entire story if you look it up under the Story of Muhammad by D. York on the internet. Keep in mind that even though this story was divinely inspired and accurately recorded by York, there is much that he wrote on other matters that was inaccurate, inspired by deceitful beings that he allowed to gain access to his mind. In summary, the history is as follows. Muhammad was born as Ahmad, Ahmad, in 570 AD. His name was changed to Muhammad by his grandfather when he took him as a boy to the Kaaba, their symbol of veneration. His father was Abdullah, his mother Amina. Abdullah was the son of Ab al-Muttalib, who was a descendant of Kedar, the second son of Ishmael, son of Abraham. Ah, his parents died when he was a child, and he was raised by his uncle Abu Talib, brother of his father Abdullah. He, Muhammad, had a daughter named Fatima. Oh, okay. And his uncle had a son named Ali. Ali married Fatima, and this made him the next in line to succeed Muhammad as the first Caliph. Upon Muhammad's death, but as you will see, the Antichrist had other plans against Muhammad's family, deposing Ali and enthroning his cronies in the caliphate, whose descendants to this day claim that they are descendants of the real Muhammad. These are the white Arabs that rule Islam today. The true descendants of Muhammad from the tribe of Quraysh, Koresh, or Quraysh, Qureysh, are black people. Some of them settled in the Sudan to escape the persecution of the followers of the false Muhammad, and they took the original Quran with them. That's why so much trouble going on in Sudan right now. All this area right here from Kenya up to Egypt. Man, y'all see all this craziness going on? Ooh-wee. And they took the original Quran with them, where it is still kept safely in their custody. About 22 years before Muhammad's birth, a white Arab boy was born in the same region named Musaylimat, Musaylimat. This Musaylimat was to become the Antichrist to Muhammad. When his time came, he changed his name to Muhammad, which means prophecy fulfilled, and he destroyed copies of the Quran, which is going on right now. Oh man, it's going on right now. And replaced them with his own Quran. He also created the Sharia which are oppressive man-made laws added to the Quran, just like the Jews made up the Talmud and added it to the Tanakh, Tanakh, or the Torah, or no, the Tanakh. Muslimat was the son of Habib al-Hanafi. He had an advisor named Waraq, Waraqa, together with whom they proceeded to change the original Quran and replace it with their own, being helped by Jewish scholars and Jesuit priests of the Catholic Church. This is the same Quran that is read today by Muslims all over the world. Muslimat planned the death of Muhammad by having him poisoned. He and Waraka tried to tempt Muhammad into forming an alliance with them. He refused, and they plotted his death by sending a Jewish woman called Zainab to serve him poisoned meat during a feast. He ate a little of it, then realized it was poison. He did not die immediately, but the poison affected him so much that he could not recover from it. He died 3 years later in 632 AD. Man. Muslimat, with the help of a man called Abu Bakr, woo, that name sounds familiar, don't it? Abu Bakr, who was then ruling, collected all the copies of the real Quran after Muhammad's death and burned them. Same thing they doing right now. They killed the 7 men who had memorized the Quran. Then they replaced it with copies of their own, which they distributed throughout the Muslim world. It is the same Quran used by Muslims today. The original Quran, which was written on dried animal skins, was taken by the family of Muhammad to Sudan, where it remains today. Now, in the time of the last Mahdi, Master Farah Muhammad, there was a white man, a false Messiah, whose mission also was to destroy everything that Master Farad was building, especially the Nation of Islam. This man's name was Ford. He was a convicted criminal, and you can still see his picture today, because those who like to discredit Master Farad like to present the picture of this white criminal as the real Mahdi. The true picture of Farad is the one that Master Elijah Muhammad shows of him holding the Quran. The other is the picture of his opponent, the seventh Antichrist. You can see how closely they resemble one another. Although with the past messiahs there was a resemblance with their opposers, this time it's made possible by the fact that Master Farad was himself the son of a white woman. This was a necessary condition for him to succeed in his mission. The extreme racism of his day, having been quite overt, would have precluded him from infiltrating the white system to learn all that he had he been a purely black man. It was this that made it possible for the false messiah, Ford, Ford, to pass himself off as Farad, Farad, in this modern day of photography, Master Farad. Thus, the devils have sent a false messiah every time a real messiah has come to black people. They will do this one last time, then Yahweh will come, and that will be their ends. Woo-wee. Boy, I just learned something, and it just makes sense. Make it make sense. Now, it's, when you couldn't connect dots, well, this book helped me connect dots, man. It just makes sense, man. It just makes sense. Man, it just makes sense. Okay, that's the end of that chapter. The next chapter, Protocols of the Elders of Shabazz. Protocols of the Elders of Shabazz. So y'all stay tuned. Big salute. Big salute. Aye.